On the Celtic Unrestricted View podcast. There we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Celtic Unrestricted View podcast. My name is Ryan Clifford. Well, again, it's a brilliant charity event. We're in here. As Paul John Dykes says, one of the previous live podcasts, we are a relatively new podcast. Robert, who is the co-host, can't make it, but joining me this week on this live event, which we're really happy to be on, is JP and William Glavin. I'll get the two guys who's joining me. William, if anybody's listened to the podcast that we do, William is a former agent. He's dealt with a lot of kind of big players and stuff. And again, William is very knowledgeable, and he adds a lot to the podcast and he contributes a lot. And again, his knowledge is really invaluable. JP, he's kind of a new contributor to the podcast. Again, big Celtic fan, knowledge is invaluable and really adds to the podcast. William, thanks for coming on again, mate. How's things?
Very well, Ryan. And firstly, I would like to just say, amazing what everyone's raised so far. As Paul John Dykes was just telling us there, that we're £90 off the 17 grand. So, listen, this is an amazing event. We're delighted to take part in this, and let's raise some more money. Let's get that 17 grand.
As you says, William, it's a fantastic cause. It's a lot of effort that the guys at the Celtic State of Mind have been doing, and hopefully we can get past the 17 grand mark that Paul John Dykes was saying there. It's a massive effort. And JP, again, how's things, mate? And it's very glad for you to come in and help us out.
Yeah, great, Ryan. Thanks for having me on. I'm glad to be invited on such a great weekend. As I say, as you boys have said, very important, great cause, and very privileged to be invited on to have a chat with you.
As we've said, it's for a fundraiser for St Mary's, obviously the parish. I watched Tony and Paul's podcast there, they're live, and what they were saying was really interesting, William, that Celtic it's not just a football club, as a cause and a commitment. And I kind of watched that and I got me warmed up for this. Like, you're talking about a charity in Celtic. That's what we're funded for, to start off with, and not just a football club. And it is really it's valuable as fans that we do stuff like this, and it's really, you do it out of your own pocket as well. And it's brilliant to get involved in, and what they're doing at Celtic State of Mind's fantastic.
Absolutely. We all know as Celtic fans it's more than a club, and the foundation of the club was about charity, and all of us have that in us as fans. And listen, we're known throughout the world for it as well. You know, everywhere we go and everywhere the club goes, we like to give something back. So yeah, it's only fitting that we do this, especially for the place where the club was founded, to raise much needed funds there. So as I said, it's a great event that we're involved in, and hopefully we can raise a lot more money.
Definitely, and as William just said, JP, it is a commitment and a cause. It's not just a football club.
Yeah, definitely, Ryan. We've heard it through the years. Playing for a club is more than just, putting on a football jersey and putting on your football boots and going out and try to entertain fans. There is a lot of background behind it all. And as I say, it's when you put on that jersey, you wear it with pride, because you're carrying a lot of burden that goes along with it, guys.
Absolutely spot on, mate. And as Paul John Dykes was saying there, we're ending the show, and I think it's a good topic, William, to kind of end the show on. The topic we're going to speak about today is the kind of academy with Celtic, the pros and cons of the academy at the moment, what we need to do better, what's really good at the moment, and obviously previous years, William, and previous at the moment, you've got McGregor, Tierney and Forrest, who are really the ones who are consistently playing, and recently turned to Arnold and McGeary and stuff in the past, and other guys, but at the moment we can kind of speak about the three. Austin McGregor's the captain, William. He's come through the system as a young boy. Maybe he's a stellar one to look at the moment, obviously, for these guys who are coming up new to look at.
Yeah, obviously the academy has produced a lot of top talented players. Just like the three guys I've just mentioned, McGregor, Forrest and Tierney are probably the best examples in recent years. And I think that there's a lot of things that the academy probably do right, but I think as the academy is and the way it's set up from how I understand it, I think it could do with some modernisation in terms of what they do and how they produce players, because football as a game is evolving, from my opinion and from my experiences, is evolving very, very quickly. And it's modernising very, very quickly, and a lot of clubs are jumping onto that now. But look, as I said, I don't think it's completely broken from my point of view, because we are producing players like McGregor, Forrest, Tierney, coming through the team, and if you go further back to McGeady, Maloney's and all those sort of players. So there's a lot of good things happening at the academy, but from my opinion, I think it could be modernised. I think the club as a whole could be modernised behind the scenes probably a bit more, and there was obviously talk about a sporting director coming in the summer, which has kind of went a bit quiet, but listen, that may change. They might look at that again, and obviously the academy would form part of that.
As you say, obviously, you know a bit more, and maybe what some fans will know, but we've spoken about in previous podcasts that we said it last October when we obviously went through the bad period for going 10 in a row, that we've seen it when about October time that we had to modernise things, we had to change now, and obviously we need to forget about last season, but we mentioned it last season about getting modernised, we need to strip things back and whatever else, and obviously these guys like Tierney, Forrest, JP, especially McGregor at the moment, I think these are the guys you look up to, even as fans. He's the captain. That's what these guys need to look up to.
Yeah, definitely. You just spoke about him there. He's got on road. He's been there. McGregor's been there for a kid. And he's came on road. He's probably played under numerous coaches, had numerous different training partners, training methods. Worked with some elite coaches as well than we have just now. I think, as William mentioned as well, you've got the likes of Maloney and McGeady. Again, they epitomise again with the club, you know, what it's all about. Giving youth a chance. But McGregor, yeah, every kid, I think he's a great example for every kid to look up to see that there's light at the end of the tunnel, with all the hard work and the training they're putting in day-to-day basis with all the coaches. And look at him. I mean, he's a captain of the first team. And to be honest with you, you can't really get any higher than that for a homegrown player.
Nah, you're spot on, mate. And I think, William, that's something that I think what JP says is really good, because we don't get these guys who come in and constantly play. But for him to come through the academy and be the captain, as much as Scott Brown to us is a legend, he didn't come through the academy. So the fact McGregor's come through the academy, I'm not saying he's going to get looked at better, but as a Celtic fan, you're thinking that's what we've been doing, and he's doing it. So you kind of look at him, maybe a wee tiny bit different.
Yeah, you sort of relate to him more, don't you? Because he comes from the same sort of background as us, and growing up in the East End of Glasgow, etc. And he's been at the club for so long, so he knows what the club's all about, as well as all the history of the club. So that does speak more to fans, I think. I definitely think fans relate to that a lot more as well. Callum McGregor's been outstanding for Celtic since he came through, and if you remember as well, he actually had a little spell down at Notts County, which I actually think done the world of good, to go down there and play week in, week out. And he was actually in the same team as Jack Grealish, if I remember right, as well, when those two were turning up for Notts County down there. So he had a really good experience to, I think they realised that he wasn't getting a pathway into the first team, and they made the right decision to put him on loan down in England. And he actually just rose to the occasion. And he didn't. A lot of players would probably go down there and sort of shrivel up, and coming away from home and going into a different environment, etc. At a young age, they might shrivel up. But he rose above it, and he was a key player in that Notts County team. And that was recognised by the first team management at Celtic. He's come up here. He's never looked back. I do think that Scott Brown's had a massive influence on him over the last few years, up until when Scott finished. And I think you can see it now in the way Callum McGregor plays. I didn't see Callum McGregor very vocal on the pitch, but see this season, since he got that armband on him, he is so vocal. You saw him the other night there, when we won the game, he was getting the fans railed up, and he was getting the players railed up. Like, we're trying to obviously manage the game when we were obviously 1-0 up against Hearts, and there was a big sticky period there where they were getting a lot of the ball and had a couple of wee chances. He was getting on the players' back, saying, "Look, we've got to get this game seen through." So, as I said, I like that from him, and I think he's obviously took a lot from Bruni over the past couple of years, and that's helped mould him into the way he is just now as captain. And I think he's doing a brilliant job as a captain for Celtic right now.
As you say, along about him obviously being a bit more louder, and basically I've seen him more. He's more in people's faces, and obviously he was.
Yeah.
But do you think that's because maybe similar to Scott Brown before he was a captain? I know he had that in him, but he wasn't obviously the leader he was. But and then it's really the same with McGregor. He's got the armband now. He is the captain. He's going to take that mantle and be the actual, like, I'm the captain now. I need to deal with it.
Yeah, 100%. You've got to. I think there's you've got to have clear attributes to be a captain, especially a captain at Celtic. I think you've got to have ability. Obviously, do you know what I mean? That's just obvious. But I think he's in people's faces now. He's trying to lead by example. He's showing a lot of hunger and desire. And listen, he knows what it's all about. As we said, he's came through the academy, so he knows what it's all about. He knows what this season's all about. This is a big season for us. And just put a lot of faith in him. I think he wants to repay the faith in Ange as well, because he's got the armband. So look, when you give the armband to someone, I think there's an expectation that you're going to need to get that from them. They've got to be vocal. They've got to be in people's faces. And Callum's been doing it fantastically, I think, this season so far.
Because obviously, as William says there, JP, he's more vocal, and you can see he's a leader in the dressing room. He was probably like that anyway, but we're seeing the fruits of that now because he's got the armband and he's playing in that role. But do you think as well the fact that Scott Brown isn't there now, he's becoming that leader now, because I'm not saying he's in his shadow, but obviously Brown was the main man and he's obviously learned underneath Brown, but he's the main man now, and he's taking that mantelpiece, in my opinion, impressively well, because I had my doubts about him being the captain. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if some fans did as well. I was thinking, well, it was Julian that might come in and be the captain, or would he sign somebody to come in and be the captain? I wasn't sure, but then after the first few games, the way he speaks, I'm thinking, right, I think he is a man to take us forward.
Aye, definitely, right. I personally wasn't surprised when he was selected. Even when Brown season last season, there were signs of McGregor, showing the leadership skills that he's shown just now. I don't know if you guys pay much attention to the pre-match warm-ups, but even last season, he's always talking to the players as if he's passing on simple instruction, but he goes round everybody one-to-one. And I think that's very important as well, because obviously everybody in the park has a different role for other people. So, and it's as if he knows, he's sort of being Angie's voice on the training field, as well as to kind of make a manager's job a bit easier in that sense. It's as if he's been filled in fully on the instruction of Ange, what Ange wants, what he's looking for, the tempo, everything needs to be right, the way we set up, the way we play, the mentality we need to lead by. And I think game by game now, you're just seeing him grow. So to me, it's no surprise to me to see that in Callum. I am being in his boy, well, he's got fire in his belly. He probably always has had it. He's just maybe not had the opportunity to let it loose. And now we're seeing the fruits of it. And not just that, I think it's vitally important as well. He's playing regularly at senior level for international as well, and that'll be helping him. Because he's playing with right characters in that dressing room as well. So that's going to help his leadership skills as well.
I think as well, as you say, it's a good point. I'll put to William. The fact that he says that it'll help Scotland as well. I know it's a Celtic podcast, talk about Celtic, but it's only going to benefit Scotland with him being a captain of Celtic and taking that into the Scottish team, because in the day we all want Scotland to win, and having more leaders in the international squad is only going to help Scotland.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. I think that there's probably a side of Callum McGregor coming out there that he's got the armband, like we said. He's obviously been more vocal and communicates well in the park. It's actually a really good point that JP made there about before the match, the instructions to players, and as you say, JP, he's almost an extension of Ange on the field, isn't he? When he's obviously passing that instruction over. So listen, I think that'll come out in the Scotland team. Yeah, I think that'll come out in the Scotland team as well. And as you said, they would only benefit from that.
And obviously, the Hearts game as well, JP. We're talking about academy. We had Welsh, Ralston, Montgomery, Mikey Johnson, Forrest, and McGregor, all really came through the academy. So maybe some are saying it's not really that good. but then you've got 6 guys who are playing in that squad at the weekend during the week. Yeah, so for that perspective, it's actually decent, but it could be better. The reason I'm mentioning academies because I don't think we get enough play consistently well all the time in the squad. Maybe you've got McGregor and Forrest now, but I think maybe ideally you want to get more. I don't know if that's to do with better coaches. Is it a better structure? I don't know what your opinion is. How do we stop spending money in projects? In my opinion, I think is maybe put more money in an academy. I don't know. As again, is it structure? Is it better coaches to get this? Because we're spending money in projects. Like we're signing guys like Liam Shaw and you've signed Kamara, all these guys for a lot of money, where you can maybe get a cheaper version for your academy to save you that money. But how do you think we're going about doing that?
I think it's always a tough one, Ryan. In terms of there's guys there that have been coaches now for a number of years. Guys like Michael O'Halloran, Dan being involved in the setup. Stephen McManus just came through that setup as well, and now he's been promoted to the first team. So I think it's a bit harsh, I think, to say to the guys, look, you're not really doing the job we're looking for, so we'll go and we're going to pull this German guy in, or we're going to pull a Dutch guy, or I think that's a bit of kind of teeth to these guys who've put, a lot of hard work and dedicated time and effort to try and develop these boys on. And let's not forget, we've got Karamoko Dembele there as well, who's about the first team as well. He's come through the academy at a younger level as well. So there's a lot of hard work went in with these boys. In terms of, as William alluded to earlier, you need to be good enough first and foremost to play in that first team. We all know that, because the demands, everything that we require as fans, you need to be at a certain level. Let's not kid ourselves. But I think what will help them, I don't think helping them is going to be putting them into playing against guys that probably would play in a Sunday league who's just going to get them every week. I don't think that's the answer. They need to be playing regularly against competition. And the only way to do that, I reckon, in my opinion, is to bring back maybe the reserve development league, where they can get regular competition. They know what it's like to be playing for trophies again. Again, it's not about having the fire in the belly. You get up in the morning, you've got to get up in the morning for cause. So, for me, that cause is to bring back competition for the boys to then go and showcase their skills. Because a lot of them have got raw talent. We know that. So, it's now a case of coaching that to a way that they fit into your formation, they understand what playing for the first team is going to be, and then seeing the progression. And maybe that means, Ryan, one of them might need to go out and loan, which is fair enough. Because I'm pretty sure with the qualities of some of the young lads that's coming through nowadays, as William says, get on quickly. So some of the SPFL teams and some of the Premier League teams would be really chuffed to have some of these boys, because it would enhance them as well and maybe make them a bit more competitive in the league. Have some of the academy boys come maybe a year's loan deal with the option a pathway to getting at least back into the Angie's thoughts for the first. That's right. There's got to be a pathway into the first team. There's some way it's got to be for that, because we've lost too many boys to your Bayern mates and other teams, and that can't keep happening in my opinion. Well, I think it's that boy, but is it Barry Herring or something? Bayern Munich, the centre back, very very promising. We lost the boy Leo Hegeldi there at Leeds before the summer window. So we need to,
lost the boy Morrison as well.
Find a way, first and foremost, to keep these boys happy. Morrison as well. I knew there was another one, William. I just couldn't remember his name at the time. So, we need to find a way try to keep these boys happy as we can, but also finding a way to progress their talent.
Because the thing, obviously, William, we've spoken about as well in previous pods. The big difference for me with the academy that I noticed, obviously, the reserve league and the guys who play in that development system, was obviously what happened with Dubai. and obviously Oakleflex and Harpat to come in and play, and we're really down in numbers, and we don't want to get into the situation what happened, but for the step up that I seen for like Oakleflex kind of stepped up, Harper stepped up, they're not at the club anymore. For reasons we don't know, if it was behind the club scenes, or is it because they weren't good enough, we don't know. Only people in Celtic know that. But for me, that was a difference where I thought, as our academy boys really as good as we think? Because I'm not saying everybody should be able to step up and play, but you should maybe have 2 or 3 that are consistently playing the first team. It maybe should be able to step in and play. Ideally, that's what you want, I would like to think. And as we said as well, I don't know if it's happening now with Ange. I don't know if they're playing the formation of the first team all the way through. I know Rodgers tried to implement it, but I don't think that was the way last season, because you seen them when the boys came in, they were like wee lost puppies on the park. They didn't really know where they were, what formation we're playing, what tactics, and saying that, I know Mace the first one didn't know that last season, but for these young guys to come in, I think they've got to know the structure for the pathway down for the bottom to the top. And I don't know what you think of that, William, but I know we've agreed that bits do need to change that way.
Yeah, obviously, go back to Brendan Rodgers, that his influence in the young stage of his coaching career was Barcelona. And Barcelona do exactly that. They're all taught the same way. Johan Cruyff done it many years ago and implemented a system at La Masia at the academy. And everyone plays the same way of football, same philosophy, and it comes from the top down, and that's ingrained in that club now. That's been ingrained there for the last 25 years, or probably before that, when Johan Cruyff first came to the club. But Rodgers took that and tried to basically, everywhere he's went, he's tried to implement that. Obviously, last season that you touched on, the boys came in. Yeah, you could see the boys were out of their depth. They've been sort of thrown into the deep end. So, you know, as a club, Celtic need to look at that and say, you know, why is that happening? We're all sitting here as fans now going, you know, why are these boys so out of their depth? Why do they lose after being thrown in the deep end? You'd maybe expect 1 or 2 that they come in and actually do okay. I think this season you've saw, you know, Montgomery's been thrown in the deep end this year and he's coped really, really well. Now, it could just be down to the individual, but a lot of it, I would say, is down to the preparation of that individual, what they're doing day in, day out at the academy, and building up to a point where they can go, right, we can give them some minutes in the first team. Let's give them a game in the first team. Let's give them some minutes, get them off the bench and nurture it. I think last year you could see there was a huge gulf, because if you look at probably Neil Lennon's policy with youngsters, I don't think he's believed in it as much as some other managers have. And I think Ange is putting a big belief in the academy now. As you said the other night, you know, we had Welsh, Ralston, Mikey Johnson came off the bench, young Montgomery came off the bench, and James Forrest was obviously playing as well. So they're all products of the academy. There's half of them in that team, which is really, really good to see. But to go back, from my opinion, in terms of the academy and how it's working, I really believe in the technical sporting director, whatever you want to call it, model. I believe that works. Pretty much a lot of the clubs in the English Premier League now have it. And that person's role is to interlink all the separate departments at the club to make sure everyone is moving in the same direction. So, for instance, if it's between the academy manager and the first team manager, they'll look at players and say, well, all right, we'll bring through Monty, we'll bring through Stephen Welsh, but, you know, see the Scott Robertsons, see such and such, let's put them out on loan. Let's give them game time elsewhere, because they're not going to get into the first team right at this very second. So the technical director would manage that. A lot of clubs in England now have loan managers, so they'll basically manage all those players that go out on loan, and they'll look at viable options for where those players can go. Now, in an ideal world, the way Celtic play, obviously the way Ange has implemented the philosophy and the tactical setup, etc., Ange ball as well like to call it, the loan manager will look at clubs throughout Europe and say, right, does that style of play suit the way we play, so we can put him over there? Because there's no point putting a young boy who's a number 10, who's a highly technical player, and they send him to a club where they just play long balls to their number 9. Do you know what I mean? Every game, because that's just pointless for his development. But clubs in England are becoming more modernised a lot quicker than us, I would say, because they've got this technical director model down there. They've got the right people in the right place, and it's all about nurturing the talent to get them from the academy to jump over into the first team. And I think we have fallen behind over the last probably 5-6 years with that. But hopefully going forward, the club will recognise that. And I think they might, because obviously I think they've been doing a review at the club there just now about how things have been done, etc. Obviously, Michael Nicholson's now in charge there as well. Maybe that's something he's going to look at about how he's going to modernise the club. But for me, you need like a technical sporting director there to pull everything together, fill the gaps of where things need to go, and have the right people in the right place to nurture the talent coming from the academy into the first team.
Because obviously, I know, faking your personal experiences, you've obviously worked with technical directors, sporting directors, so you know how they type of guys work. So do you think, obviously, with your opinion, that was maybe something that Celtic should be going down? Because I know when Dominic Mackay came in, I know he's not here now, but he did kind of briefly speaking about modernising the club and we need this and we need this. And hopefully, by the sounds of Ange's, whoever, as you said, Nicholson's in, they are trying to continue this process. I know it's a slow process. I know some fans, me included, we all do, we get frustrated when things don't happen quick. But these things take time. It's actually really talking to you that I realise these things take time and transfers take time. Everything takes time in football. But as fans, we all want the rush. We all want the perfect transfer, the perfect this, and it's not always going to happen. But do you think maybe the technical director, because I'm maybe trying to get the perfect guy, if that's what they're trying to do, this is maybe why it's taking some at a time?
Yeah, it could be, Ryan. But there is people out there more than capable of doing this job. Like, people just need to take a step back and have a look. It could be someone within the club, but sometimes it's maybe better to get someone who's had an experience and who's already done it at a club. Do you know what I mean? Bring them in and replicate it. I'll give you an example. Queen's Park announced that a guy called Marian Bjoiker is going to be their new director of football or sport director, whatever you want to call it. And Marian basically worked at AZ Alkmaar for the last 17 years and developed a model at the academy at AZ Alkmaar to develop the best young players in Holland and to give them a pathway into the first team. Now, over the course of those 17 years, he's introduced data and analytics. They've got lifestyle coaches that work with these players. They've got everything in place, all these tools that they've got in place there to help develop and nurture that talent, but also to recognise the talent and to recognise the individual. Because I've said this before in the podcast before, Ryan, you can have all the ability in the world, but see if you've not got the mental capacity or the mental strength to get to that elite level, you'll never ever get there. You've got to be a capable person, you've got the right personality, the right determination, the hunger to do it. But at AZ Alkmaar, Marian developed a way of using data and analytics and testing and all these sort of things to identify people, personalities, and ability. And if you take where AZ Alkmaar were in terms of what they're developing in players now, I read a stat the other day that if you get to the age of 16 in the AZ Alkmaar Academy, you've got a 53% chance of becoming a professional football player. That is huge compared to some of the other clubs around. Huge. It's huge. People say, it's only 53%. It's massive. I think that some other clubs it could be 15, 10%. Do you know, there's only the famous thing is only one or two ever come through the academy into the first team. We've said that for years. But you've got 53% chance of becoming a professional football player at AZ Alkmaar. And that's because of all the data and analytics they've used, the lifestyle coaches they've used for these boys. He developed that. Now, fair play to Queen's Park. They recognise that and says, we need to do something different. We don't have the money to do it, but their goal was to develop the best young players in Scotland. They've brought this guy in who's going to implement that at Queen's Park, and that's a really interesting club to look at for anyone that's out there and seeing how that develops over the course of the next few years. But as a Celtic fan, me personally, obviously I've worked in the game, I've dealt with people like this, but I want to see us go down that route. I want us to be at the, ahead of the curve in terms of the progressiveness and the modernisation of the game. I want Celtic to be the team that's doing that. I want us to be ahead of everyone, leading the way, charging through. Obviously, the only way you're going to do that is if you've got the right person in charge. But listen, there's an abundance of people out there that are more than capable of doing it, because there's clubs all over the UK that are now implementing that model very successfully.
It's obviously, as William says, our JP, about the technical director, sporting director, is that the route that you want us to go down? I don't know your opinion on it. Me personally, I'm agreeing with William. I think it's something that we need to modernise the club in. What's your opinion on, obviously, that, and as well as nurturing these guys' mentality? We've spoken about it in the last podcast, that's before the Hearts game. Mentality is a big thing in football, especially in Scotland at Celtic. If you've not got the mentality, as William says, the chance you making it a club at Celtic it's going to be very hard. Your ability only takes you so much. Like McGregor's a fantastic football player, but he's got the mentality to be the Celtic captain, the mentality to be a Celtic player. And there's been some guys, maybe like your Islam Farouzis, who have been phenomenal young players, but mentality's not been there. And I don't know what happened. Did he chase the money? Has he had the wrong advice? We don't know. But what's your opinion on they kind of comments?
First of all, the sporting director, the modern name for it now is director of football, or whatever they call it. And I think possibly that's the best avenue to go down now. For a couple of reasons. One, it takes severe pressure off the manager, and it creates a go-between then for the manager and the board, and as a middleman sort of thing, whoever he may be. So he can, he's obviously got his own ideas, and he showed just over the transfer window there. We're all led to believe that he was vital in getting the 12 guys that he got in through the door. I think he had to do quite a lot of the work himself, due to the fact that we certainly don't have a lot of the kind of background work that Williams alluded to there. And I know we briefly heard about Dominic Mackay saying making us world class and we need to modernise the club, and that's basically everything Williams just said. And I agree with William. Being ahead of the game, starting to find ways to get everybody to start talking about us. And look at those guys. They've got a great setup over there. Let's go and see. Let's go and see them. We want people from all over the continent coming to see us, and that's, for me, that's what we should be. People just go out there. They play in a Mickey Mouse league, and a Temple League, other people call it, from down south, and that's their opinion. But we spoke about it in previous pods as well. It's not all rosy in the garden for people in the south to come up here and make a name for themselves. There's plenty that failed over the last 10, 15 years. But yeah, modernising the club has got to be the way forward. And the director of football, I'd be very happy to appoint somebody tomorrow morning in that role. Regarding nurturing younger talent, it's vitally important that these boys get the kick, because to pull on that jersey at the beginning, you're not just putting on a jersey in your football boots and running out onto a park to play with your mates. You're playing for a cause. You're playing for a massive, massive meaning to 50% of Glasgow and all over the world. We're renowned, Celtic are known all over the world. So there's a lot of pressure on you as soon as you pull that jersey on. If you're named in that first team and you're named in that starting lineup, you go out there, you've got to perform. You've got to. It's imperative that you do. If you don't, a draw is, you'd be as well getting beat 4-0. A draw is not good enough in that jersey. And as William says, a lot of the younger guys, a lot of them don't have that mind to, it's all right, we'll just go away, we'll train, we'll do. No, it's Celtic. We need to, this is what we need to do. Everything as soon as you wake up in the morning. This is what you need to eat, sleep, and drink. And yeah, it's important that we get the right people in again. That all comes to, whether it be, psychologists coming in to speak to these boys, or, life coaches coming in to help them. Because what you don't want is a guy coming in like Islam Farouz with all the talent in the world, and then he starts making bad decisions because he's maybe not got the right team behind him, the support work.
Yeah, 100%.
To help the boy. I think another was maybe the boy Charlie Masonda, who we brought up for Chelsea, or maybe a different scale, but again, he came with the wrong attitude. I think he came here with the bully big boy attitude, and he thought he was coming up here, I'm coming up here to show you talent. And maybe in a year or two's time, I'll be playing with Real Madrid, one of the bigger clubs in the world. And how quickly did it go off for that boy? Because he didn't have the right attitude.
Yeah.
You've got to have the right attitude. You've got to be willing to learn. Not just stand there in a jersey, and you've got to be able to take instruction and not fall out with people just because you don't like what they're saying, or you've got to listen. The guys that are in the job doing the jobs know what they're doing. They're there for a reason, and that all comes again. That's all part of your coaching. The size of Celtic. So my opinion is, yeah, we need to modernise that part of the setup, and in a sense that these boys, it just becomes second nature. So like see young Monty, as William says earlier on, when he was flung into the first team, he just coped with it. And I don't know if I'm thinking along the lines of that maybe helped the boy when he got a game or two before the end of last season as well. So he was kind of already in amongst the setup, so he kind of knew what was, he knew what the setup was, he knew what was expected, and he knew what was going to be happening the following season. I think he knew then he was going to be part of, I'm part of the first team, so.
Yeah, I agree with that. See, just interestingly,
definitely, it's got to be right. No.
Sorry, Ryan.
That was all I was saying. It was just it's got to be right.
Yeah, it has. I don't know, Ryan. What did we pay for Bio? For instance, was that a couple of million we paid for him?
I was it £1.5, £2 million roughly?
£1.5, £2 million. You could, honestly, we could easily just take that £2 million on one player that we spent, and you could implement a strategy right through the whole club, from recruitment to analytics to the medical department to the academy, and you could put someone at the top of that to manage it with that money, probably even less than that money. And that's all it needs. It just needs the right person at the top to just take their plan, present a plan to the board and say, this is how I want to do it. This is what I need to do it, almost like a business plan. And this is how much money I need to spend. And see at the end of the period, when I've set it all up and in a year's time, this is what you're going to benefit from. You're going to bring through 4 or 5 boys into the team. And then if they do well, you'll sell them for 10, 12, 15 million. Do you know what I mean? If that's the model that they've got. Obviously, we've been doing that to an extent over the past probably 10, 15 years, going back to when John Park was there, but buying young form boys in and selling them on. Now, the game's changed because, well, Britain, for one's left the European Union. There's work permit restrictions now. We try to bring players in from Europe. It's really hard to bring young European players in now, much harder than what it was before. So I think now's the time. Well, to be honest, if it was me, if I was at the club, I would have looked at this 2 years ago when Brexit was getting pushed through and saying to ourselves, right, how do we box a bit more clever here? We need to look at the academy a bit more. Let's put more funds into the academy. Let's help these boys, as JP said, and get lifestyle coaches in with these guys. There's no point in having somebody with ability and they're going to make terrible decisions off the field, not looking after themselves correctly. But we should have been doing, the only criticism here of the club is we should have been doing this 2 years ago. We should have been looking at it, putting a plan in place to make it work. Listen, I know they're probably been, the target was to get 10 in a row, and that's probably what the focus would have been. But I think behind the scenes, you need people there that are ready to implement a plan to look at the next 5 years. Where we're going to be in 5 years' time, basically. We need people looking long term to obviously get the benefit of what we're trying to do.
And obviously, as we've spoken about in the past, William, is I know we've got a B team playing in the Colts League. But obviously in previous years you had a lot of first team guys getting in and playing with the reserve leagues. I know Simon Ferry talks about it in his podcast, how he became a man basically playing with these guys, Paul Lambert and guys like that. I don't know how it would happen now. I don't know if it's financial straits that it can't happen, or is it because there's maybe not enough teams to do it anymore. There's not enough guys in the squads to do it. Obviously, the first team are playing all the time. The youth boys are sometimes training with the first team. They might not be able to play all the time. But what's your opinion on, obviously, I know that is a league already, but do you think maybe bringing a league like that back would be beneficial, and maybe playing Premier League teams every week in a friendly, or do you think maybe what we're doing now is maybe beneficial more than what it used to be like?
I don't know how the B team thing is going to work. We'll only know after a few years, I think, how the B team scenario works. I do think having the B team is better than what it was before, because there was too big a jump to go from, whatever it was, under 19s, under 21s or whatever, to jump into the first team. I think I was a big believer. I think the reserve system worked, as you said. Simon Ferry obviously had first-hand experience of it. A lot of young players' first-hand experience of coming through and getting experience playing with seasoned professionals. I think to an extent that did work, and when they took that away, there was far too big a gulf to do the jump from the academy to the first team. So I don't know. I think let's give the B team a chance. The whole philosophy behind that, see how that pans out over the next couple of years. But I think that is definitely a problem, probably collectively in Scotland as a whole, because not every team has got a B team at the minute. I think, in fact, it's only really Celtic and Rangers that are carrying B teams at the minute.
You could be right, aye.
I think it's only that because they've got the funding to do it. But I think for the wider benefit of the game and the game in Scotland, I think they've got to look at a way of how young players progress, because obviously the Aberdeens and Dundee Uniteds and whatever, there is still that big gulf to jump. But I think we'll give the B team philosophy a chance and see how that pans out.
Because obviously, JP in the B team, you've got guys like, obviously the Belly's injured at the moment, but he is mainly in with the first team. But you've guys like Moffat and Vata, these guys are all coming up, and these guys could be first team players in a few years. But do you think the B team benefits them, or do you think maybe going out on loan to maybe a Stirling Albion or an East Fife would be better for them doing that, or do you think playing at their own level, with their own level, a kind of age group, or in that type of group would be better for them, or out on loan to maybe a team in that our league?
I think it's vital, Ryan, that they're tested, and they need to be tested at our level. That's my opinion. I get these boys, some of these boys are still very young. But they need to be tested. I don't think playing them in a low league, when they're playing against guys who are just hatchet men, they're just going to get kicked up and down the pitch a lot of the times. The parts on the greatest of pitches either. So I mean, they're not going to be playing in great surfaces that they can showcase themselves properly and attack properly. I think another vital thing is need to. I like what Ange's doing just now. They need to come in and out, in and out of the first team training, because it's vital again that they know what's expected of them when they eventually make that jump. So they need to know how you do it on a day-to-day basis. You need to know what's involved, because the first team training's going to be more intense than what they're doing just now. That's just factual. And if it's not, then I'll hold my hands up and say I'm wrong. But I would imagine first team training's a lot harder than training with boys their own age. But yeah, I think it's vital that they play and they get competition. I think they need to be tested. So whether that be, as I said, bringing the reserve league back so that they're tested on a weekly basis, and then they have then the progression of, if you're successful in that league, then you get to test yourselves against like some of the European teams, because they've got young boys who, on match days in Champions League, just say Man City are playing Paris Saint-Germain at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in BT Sport. You've got under-19s of Manchester City playing the under-19s of Paris Saint-Germain. So I think it's vital that these boys need to, they need to play in competition. Again, you get that, the bug of, we need to be winners when, we've got a set goal that we're trying to achieve. I know their main set goal would be, I need to get into the first team. But there's a way that you've got to bounce that. So, and that all comes from playing with guys who are maybe older than you, where you're going to be tested physically as well, and it'll test you mentally as well, because you need to be ready for when the manager gives you a phone and tells you that you're playing on a Saturday for the first team.
I think as well, William, as to JP says, but I do think mentality's got a lot to do with it. Masons have all played football at a certain level, and as he says, well, ability can always get you so much, but if you've not got ability to push yourself and maybe go out on loan and challenge yourself, because some of these guys might be getting a handsome wage at Celtic, young boys might be comfortable. Some of them might go, I'm sure it was it Brendan Rodgers that says you don't make it at Celtic unless you play a lot of games. So he says at Celtic that he found a lot of the youth boys were counting about, I played with Celtic and I've never played a first team game. And he's like, no, you need to play a certain amount of games with any of the Celtic player, but you need to just think you've never made it. You just need to continually try and make it all the time. And I think maybe that's, I don't know if money's got a thing to do with it in this modern day football, that players get a wad of money and they're training every day, and they might get in a team that are stuck and they're just in a, basically, I'm here and that's it. But I think these days, like Ronaldo's and your Messi's, they always want to be the best. And I know it's very hard for guys like your Moffats and Batters to think like that, but do you think maybe that's something we might implement from an early age to just try and get it in their head?
Yeah, I don't think it's hard to imagine thinking the same way as Cristiano or Lionel Messi thinks. I think you've got to think like that if you want to be a winner and an elite football player. I think that 100% it's massive. Mentality in football is massive. Confidence is massive in football. There's a fine line, confidence and arrogance, and I think that's probably what Brendan was alluding to when he probably said that. Players go to Celtic in the academy, I play for Celtic, etc. Now, you've not played for Celtic. You're not a player for Celtic until you're played in the first team. I would totally agree with that. And you've got to think as a player that you want to be playing the first team, but you want to be in the first team every week. Do you know what I mean? It's no good playing a couple of games here or there and thinking you're, Billy Big Boys. But I think that players need the right mentality to get to the elite level of the game. It is absolutely huge, in my opinion. I think that from a club perspective, they need to identify the personalities correctly at the club who they believe can make it to the elite level, not just the ability. And there should be measures in place and checks in place and testing in place to ensure that the right decisions are being made by the coaching staff and the recruitment teams when they're bringing players to the club. And obviously, because that the players represent the club from a perspective, so you want the right personalities there as well. But yeah, I totally agree. Mentality is huge in the game, mate. And I think that I've said that numerous occasions that people don't see that side of it a lot in football. And obviously, we only see what obviously happens on the pitch, but there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. And having a strong mentality definitely gets you up to the elite level of the game.
As William says, JP, we don't know what everything goes behind the scenes. Obviously, these young guys might be good enough and they don't get a chance. And it's really the same as first team players. Like, my opinion on Mikey Johnson is I don't think he'll make it to Celtic. I don't think he has done well. Obviously, he must be very good to go through the Celtic youth system. Can't take it away from Mikey, but I think maybe consistently, I don't think he's going to do it. I don't know what your opinion on, obviously, Mikey Johnson is playing every week, but I know he's had bad injuries. But I do need to take my hat off the guy. He's worked hard. He's getting into the Celtic through the youth system, and to do that, you must have a level of ability to get to that stage, because as William says, some guys have came and failed.
Aye, definitely, Ryan. I think a lot of it's down to me, especially with Mikey. I've obviously spoke to people. They seem to be in a wee bit more of the know than me personally. I think Mikey was brought into the Celtic setup when he was 17 under Brendan. And I think a lot of it's to do with Mikey's body. I think, again, going back to the intensity of training and everything else, Mikey just wasn't quite ready at the time Brendan introduced him to the first team. That's what I'm led to believe. Mikey just wasn't ready. That's why you've seen Mikey pick up injuries here and there, because he's then had to start developing his body quicker than maybe, where he did. I think he's got all the raw talents. I think his progression was hindered under Lennon, because, as William says, it became more apparent that Lennon maybe didn't show a big interest in a lot of the kids go there. And he didn't want to play a lot of them. And we can probably say that was in the press as well. I mean, it was a big season last season, as we all know, and he's probably not wanting to, make things worse than what they were. To be honest, you're throwing in a kid and then it maybe goes wrong, and that creates another media story, a backstory again, other than the 50 million ones that we already had. So, but regarding Mikey, I think it's a bit harsh to just point blankly turn and say, I don't think he's going to make the grade. I think maybe under a coach like Ange, give him a year or so, let's see, where he goes. I mean, he's training with guys now like Kyogo and Jota and Forrest, and he's doing it regularly now. And if that's him just starting to get over his injury trouble, his leg, and his body, and he had a bit of back problem as well that we don't know, no privy to. That's what I feel. And that all hindered him in progressing his training. he was on a programme that got hindered through a bad injury, and then he got a really bad injury against Charlton in pre-season. And I think it was the same game as Carroll as well.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And again, that put him back again. So now that he's working, as far as he's a really hard worker. And that's key as well. Again, that's all about showing the right attitude and showing that you want to do it and showing that you're there. And now he's in the thick of it. Let's see what he's got. And I think he's maybe now it's time to. It's kind of going to be, as well says a wee bit earlier, fight or flight. Because now that Jota might have an injury, he might be called upon now to come in and show what he's got. And that's his chance. I do think this is vital for him. And he needs to show. And my dad's always a great one for always saying, when you get that jersey, you grab it with both hands and you don't let it go.
And that's somewhat kind of Ralston this year, William. We all, a lot of fans have obviously got to give him an apology, but he kind of took that jersey and says it's mine. But on Mikey Johnson, was he 22 now, roughly? 22? Again, my opinion might be different for other fans, but from my personal view, if you're 22, I know he's had injuries, but if you're not playing consistently with Celtic at 22, are you going to play consistently? I don't know if I know Ralston's come in, I think he's 22, 23 as well, roughly, Ralston. But he's starting to play now. But I think the fans didn't come in, he wouldn't have got that chance. I think if Neil Lennon was still the manager or somebody who was maybe at the club, I think he'd have been shipped away again. And I think he knows that himself. But he's got a new light under the engine. Again, we can't fault him. But I just can't see Mikey Johnson being a Celtic player consistently. I might be wrong, like maybe Ralston, but from my opinion right now, he is an option, but he wouldn't be the guy who I would say, right, he's got to play.
Yeah, I think my opinion of Mikey Johnson is that he's not done enough for me when he's had the chance to come on the park. I completely understand he's had injury troubles and he's not been playing consistent enough. However, when you bring a winger on to the pitch during a game, you really would need them to do something, create an impact in the game, do something, beat a player, play a through ball, have a shot and goal, make the keeper work. He had a few chances on Thursday night and I thought he was really poor in those chances and just some of his decision making let him down at times. It could be a confidence issue the boys got that we don't know about, and that's up to Ange and the rest of the coaching staff to help him get through that. As JP correctly said, he's got an opportunity now. If Jota's still going to be out for a couple of matches, he's got an opportunity to get in that team and he's got to go and look at the example of what Tony Ralston's done. Young Tony Ralston's been absolutely phenomenal this season, and Ange just basically showed him the door and says, listen, it's up to you to walk through it here. It's your opportunity to take, and he's done it. But the thing for me with Tony Ralston is he's actually get better every single game, I think. One of my main criticisms of Ralston, and as you know, Ryan, I'm doing some scouting for a club in Scotland now, so you kind of look at what things that players do well and things that they don't do so well. And my main critic of Tony Ralston was his final ball. His final ball was always really, really poor. He went to Dundee United on loan. You could see it there as well. But see, this year, he's been phenomenal. His final ball's been absolutely tremendous. I don't know how many assists he's got this year. He's obviously got a few goals as well. Mikey should look at what Tony's done and say, that's what I need to do. That's the level I need to hit, and I need to do it now. He needs to hit. This is it now. This is his opportunity. He's got to grasp it. As JP says, a great example. Grab the jersey and don't let go. He's got an opportunity to do that now. He's got to take some inspiration from what young Tony's done. As you said, Ralston would never have got a look at Tim Lennon. I completely agree with that as well. But he's got to listen to what Ange is telling him. This, in terms of Mikey, he's got to listen to what Ange is telling him. But he's got to go on that field and he's got to produce. Now's the time to do it for him.
Because obviously he could, and as you said, as JP says, this year is maybe the year for him. But I know we've spoken about Jota in our podcast that we think, me personally, I think he can go and play Benfica. He's that good. I think he's phenomenal. I think we're very lucky that we've got him and the chance to get from maybe 6 million if that can happen. But I know he's came for maybe a better academy and a better culture and a better eating habits and whatever else. But he's really about the same age as Mikey Johnson, and look at Jota to Mikey Johnson. And will Mikey Johnson ever get to that level? I can't see it. I could be wrong again. This is why we like football. It's all about opinions, and we can only see what we see in a part of the now. We can only comment on what we see the now. And my opinion now, William, is I can't see him make a difference to us permanently.
Yeah, I would probably agree with you at the minute, mate. I don't see him playing consistent enough for us because he's not taking the opportunities that he's been presented with at the minute. He's not hitting the level he should be hitting. You know, you look at Jota. Jota's playing with unbelievable confidence just now. But I think that's down to how we play as well. Suits the way how Jota plays. You know, the way that Ange sets up the team gives him a lot of freedom. You know, to come inside or go out and beat the player and give him a bit of freedom and movement within the team. But Mikey's getting the same freedom. He's going to just basically go into that position, and he's basically just saying, "Look, get the ball forward, beat the man, get crosses into the box, work hard." He's got to do it. At the minute, I'm looking at Mikey Johnson, and I'm saying to myself, I don't think he's going to quite do it. But if you asked me probably this time last year, Ryan, if I thought Tony Ralston was going to do it, I'd probably said the same thing. Do you know what I mean? So as you said, things can change very, very quickly in football. We all know that. Let's see how he does over the next couple of games. Fingers crossed he gives us a good performance. But listen, it's really crunch time for him now, in my opinion.
I definitely agree, mate. And obviously, JP, the last final word on obviously your thoughts on the academy and hopefully in the future, what do you think we can do better?
I hope we can bring through another Jimmy Johnson or another, you know, one of the lines like to get us to a level that we want to go, that we don't need maybe go and spend 9 million in buying Edouard or 5 million, waste it on a Jetty, or another 5 million and waste it on a Barkas, and I could go on and on about that. But yeah, definitely. I just want to see it bringing through. I don't want to see it, you know, specifically spending all our money and bringing like foreign guys all the time. Because I want to see, it's brilliant seeing all these young Scottish lads coming through the team. It really is. And playing, you know, in the Europa League and getting called up to the Scotland under 21s and in the Scotland senior setup. And maybe that means you're bringing through guys as well, but the other teams as well. And, you know, there's other teams are great players. I mean, we've got one in midfield now. Again, he's grabbed the jersey with both hands and he's not let it go. And David Turnbull. People can say what they want about, you know, he's went off the boil or he's done this and he's done that. He must be doing something because Ange doesn't strike the type of manager who'll ban the guy who he reckons is underperforming. Yeah, and he's showing an attitude again because he's playing on beside his captain, and Callum must be giving the manager feedback as well, you know, and what he thinks, and that all comes as part and parcel of that role as well. So yeah, I just want to see us develop, progress the club forward, be ahead of the curve, as William says, and be flyweight as well. You know, be proactive instead of reactive. A lot of people reactive in a transfer market. Maybe gets to the last couple of days, and you've got like Jeremy Tolman coming in and loan, and a lot of us have never heard of that guy, and it just doesn't work out for numerous reasons. Be ahead of, know what you're buying, know the product, what you're bringing in, and that again all comes down to the manager. And I think that is vital for us as well. You need to trust the manager. Because we've probably spoke about it in other podcasts, or thousands of other podcasts have spoken about it. Managers previously have been undermined at senior levels, and players just getting flung upon them. Marion Sped's a great example of that. So we need to cut all that out if we want to progress and bring. I would rather see us bring one of your boys through, than having a project coming in and it just doesn't work out and becomes a media circus and a backstory. So yeah, I want to see it develop and develop anyway.
Yeah, as I said, guys, I really appreciate you coming on. We've got 30 seconds or so left. But I've just seen we've raised over the 17,000 mark since we've been on the pod here. So absolutely fantastic effort. And Paul John Dykes and the guys at the State of Mind team, absolutely fantastic. I know
Yeah,
the money
fantastic.
goes to an absolute brilliant cause. I really appreciate you coming on today, guys.
Superb.
Of course.
I know we've kind of watched it all day. It's a long day for some of the fans I've been watching, and they've listening to us kind of talking at the end. So I don't know if I've drifted off, but again, I like to think it's the best till last, but we'll just need to wait and see with the comments at the end. But again,
No.
William and JP, thanks a lot, guys, and take care. Hail, hail.